The radio crackled once, then went silent. Not the silence of peace, the silence of something terrible about to happen. It was November, the kind of cold that doesn't ask permission. It simply enters your bones and stays. The valley below the ridgeline had turned grey, the trees stripped bare, the ground frozen into jagged, unforgiving earth. Smoke rose from 3 different directions. None of it was friendly smoke. Sergeant Tomás Varga was 26 years old. He had a photograph tucked inside his chest pocket. His daughter, 18 months, sitting in a field of sunflowers, somewhere far from this God-forsaken hill. He hadn't looked at it since morning. He was afraid if he did, he'd start thinking about going home. And men who thought about going home made mistakes. This was eastern Ukraine. Winter, 22,000. A forward observation post, barely more than a trench line and 3 damaged sandbag walls, positioned on a ridge that had changed hands 4 times in 6 weeks. The unit had been ordered to hold it for 72 hours, while the main force repositioned 7 kilometers south. 72 hours. They were now at hour 68. Varga's squad had started as 11 men. There were now 4. The assault had come before dawn. Sudden, overwhelming, like a wall of noise collapsing onto something fragile. Mortars had walked down the hillside with mechanical precision. The second mortar round had taken Corporal Daniel. The third had taken 2 others. What was left of the squad retreated to the northern trench, a shallow cut in the earth that offered the illusion of protection but nothing more. Command had been contacted at 4:22. The response: hold position, reinforcements en route. That was 4 hours ago. The radio had been silent for 2. Now through the tree line below, through the frozen mist that hung low between the skeletal birches, Varga could see them moving, not running, walking. The deliberate, unhurried movement of men who know they have already won and are simply collecting what is theirs. He counted, stopped counting when he reached 140. There were more behind them. Private Oleg Marchuk pressed himself against the sandbag wall and turned to Varga with eyes that were asking the only question that mattered. Are we leaving? Varga looked at the ridge behind them. The only exit, a supply road carved through the hillside, was now covered by enemy fire. They had tried it once, 40 minutes ago. They hadn't tried it again. He looked at the position. The trench still commanded the ridge. It still controlled the approach. If they abandoned it now, if they gave up the ground, the main force repositioning to the south would be exposed on their flank. 7 kilometers away, 200 soldiers moving through open terrain, unaware that the shield on their left had collapsed. Varga did the math quickly. It wasn't complicated math. He handed Marchuk his secondary weapon, gave the last smoke grenade to a soldier named Fenn, who was 19 years old and had joined the army 8 months ago, because he'd wanted to protect his city. He told them both, in the quietest voice, what he was going to do. Marchuk started to argue. Varga stopped him with a single look. Some things don't need words. What happened in the next 22 minutes has been pieced together from the accounts of the 3 survivors, drone footage recovered later, and a handwritten note found tucked inside a shattered radio casing. Varga moved, not backward, forward. He repositioned along the eastern edge of the trench, found a depression in the earth that offered a sightline down the entire approach corridor, and he began firing. Controlled, disciplined bursts. Not the panicked spray of a frightened man, the slow, deliberate rhythm of someone who has made a decision and intends to see it through. The advancing column hesitated, stopped. That hesitation, those critical seconds, confused them. A force this size does not expect resistance from a position this small. It does not expect someone to be moving towards the sound. They assumed there were more men. They assumed it was a trap. For 11 minutes, the assault stalled. Then a mortar round landed close, very close, and the eastern edge of the trench collapsed. Varga was thrown sideways, his rifle lost in the rubble, his ears ringing so severely that the entire world became a high-pitched whine. He pulled himself upright, found the rifle, kept going. The twist, the thing nobody expected, did not come from the enemy. It came from above. At minute 14, a Ukrainian drone operator 20 kilometers away, monitoring a completely different sector, caught the engagement on thermal imaging purely by accident. What he saw, one heat signature moving, firing, repositioning against what the system assessed as 170 plus, made him stop, made him report it, made a chain of phone calls happen very quickly. At minute 19, artillery support was redirected. At minute 22, the first rounds landed on the valley floor. The column broke. They found Varga in the collapsed eastern trench, wounded, shrapnel in his left side, a deep cut above his eye, 2 fingers broken on his right hand, conscious, sitting with his back against the sandbag wall, the rifle across his knees, still facing downhill. He had not retreated. The position held, the main force completed its repositioning safely. None of them knew until later how close it had been. None of them knew about the ridge, about the man who simply refused to move. The note found in the radio casing was short, written before the assault, presumably. 5 words in his handwriting. They will not pass here. Reinforcements arrived 40 minutes after the artillery. The valley was quiet by then. The mist had lifted slightly, and pale winter light moved through the birch trees, touching the frozen ground with something that almost looked like grace. Almost. Varga was evacuated. He survived. The ridge changed hands twice more before spring. Some men fight to win, some men fight to survive, and some men, just a few, fight so that others can. Those are the ones history forgets first and should remember longest.